Let's discuss serious long-term effects of yelling at kids. We want what's best for our kids. It's why so many parents struggle with parenting choices. And we are only human after all. It's absolutely normal to get frustrated with your children, especially if they are misbehaving. But the way you express this frustration and deal with the situation can have major implications on their personality development and their long-term health. In fact, harsh parental disciplining measures like yelling can have even bigger impact on kids than previously believed. Nobody likes to be yelled at. It's demeaning, embarrassing, and can be a frightening experience, especially for the children. While most parents are guilty of raising our voices louder and more often than we sometimes mean to, unpacking why we yell and how yelling affects our children may be helpful information to have the next time your 3-year-old throws his plate of food across the kitchen. People yell because it's their go-to response when they are angry, says Joseph Shrand, MD and instructor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. So folks, watch this video till the end to learn what clinical studies have found out about the long-term effects that yelling can have on kids. Let's begin with yelling makes their behavioral problems get even worse. You might think that yelling at your kids can solve a problem in the moment or can prevent them from behaving badly in the future. But research shows that it could actually be creating more issues in the long run. Yelling can actually make your child's behavior even worse, which means you'll have to yell more to try to correct it, and the cycle continues. A study on parent-child relationships showed that this is just the case in many families. In the study, 13-year-olds who were shouted at by their parents reacted by increasing their levels of bad behavior over the following years. And if you think it matters which parent is doing the disciplining, no, it doesn't. Another study found that there is no difference if harsh discipline comes from the father or the mother. The outcome yet remains the same. Their behavioral problems get worse. Moving on to the second problem that yelling can cause to your kids. Yelling makes our children feel devalued. The common thread that binds all people together is wanting to feel valued. For most of us, feeling valued by others is how we measure our self-worth and how we determine whether we matter to the world around us. When we are yelled at, we see ourselves as inadequate and question our capabilities. Yelling is one of the fastest ways to make someone feel they do not have the value. When we are angry and start yelling, we are seeing ourselves as a hammer and everyone around us as a nail. In such a state, our children look like the enemy and not like human beings who we value and love. Our children should never feel like the enemy. This is quoted by one of the famous childcare experts. Point number 3. Yelling changes the way their brain develops. Yelling and other harsh parenting techniques can quite literally change the way your child's brain develops. That's because humans process negative information and events more quickly and thoroughly than the good ones. One study compared brain MRI scans of people who had a history of parental verbal abuse in childhood with the scans of those who did not have a history of abuse. They found a noticeable physical difference in the parts of the brain responsible for processing sounds and language. Point number 4. Bonds are broken by yelling. Yelling breaks your connection with your child and puts your relationship bank account in the red zone. Yelling doesn't generate empathy. It puts you and your child at odds with one another and makes them feel like you're not on their team. Invariably, children leave interactions where they've been yelled at, feeling defiant, defensive, and disconnected from you. Not open to change, receptive, and more deeply connected. Moving on to the fifth point, yelling can cause chronic pain. A recent study found a link between negative childhood experiences, including verbal and other kinds of abuse, and the late development of painful chronic conditions. The conditions included arthritis, bad headaches, back and neck problems, and other chronic pain. It's never too late to make a change in your parenting behavior or learn some new techniques. If you notice yourself yelling a lot or losing your temper, ask for help. A therapist or even another parent can help you sort through some of those feelings and develop a plan to deal with them in a healthier. Point number 6. Yelling fuels anxiety, depression, and lower self-esteem. Studies have found that children who are yelled at are prone to anxiety and have increased levels of depression. Children pick up anxiety from their parents, and that the manner in which mom or dad reacts to any mistakes they make either soothes the child or stimulates their anxieties. Yelling, of course, is never a soothing experience. In addition to children feeling hurt, scared, or sad when their parents yell at them, verbal abuse has the ability to cause deeper psychological issues that carry into adulthood. In the study that tracked increasing behavioral problems by 13-year-olds who were yelled at, researchers also found an uptick in the depressive symptoms. Many other studies also show a connection between emotional abuse and depression or anxiety. These kinds of symptoms can lead to worsening behavior and can even develop into self-destructive actions like drug abuse or an increase in risky sexual activity. At the end of the video, I would like to specify the most important part of this entire conversation. Yellers model poor communication skills. Children have a hard time learning to regulate their own emotions if their parents don't show them how. And parents who fly off the handle every time they are upset to teach their children to similarly overreact when they encounter frustrating situations of their own. In other words, yellers raise yellers. Experts explain that this happens in part because when we yell at our children, we activate their mirror neurons, the part of the brain that mirrors the behavior of the others, causing them to respond in the same kind. Anger begets anger. Yelling at our children makes them want to yell back at us. The good news is, mirror neurons can also have the opposite effect in children and adults. By the way, when was the last time you got angry at someone treating you with respect? Think about it.